The market smelled of smoke, rust, and old sweat. A human traveler named Daniel walked slowly through the narrow paths. His boots hit the dusty ground as alien voices echoed all around him. They were bargaining, shouting, laughing, and mocking one another above his head. Strange lamps swung back and forth, throwing sharp light over the cages lined against the walls. Inside the cages were beings that did not belong there. Some looked wild, some broken, and some empty. They were chained, collars tight around their necks. The merchants shouted their prices like they were selling meat. Daniel felt his stomach twist. He had seen slavery before in the outer worlds, but this place felt darker, crueler. The aliens called this section the pleasure market, and it was worse than he imagined. He passed a cage where a scaled creature hissed at him, claws scratching the bars. Another cage held a young alien boy whose eyes no longer carried any light. Daniel forced himself not to stop. He told himself he was only here to find spare ship parts. Not trouble, but then at the very end of the market he froze. There was one cage different from the others. It was darker, pushed into the shadows as if the merchants themselves were afraid to keep it in the open. Inside, chained by her wrists and ankles, sat a girl. Her skin was pale with a faint shimmer, almost glowing under the weak light. Her hair fell like black silk over her shoulders. Her eyes, silver, bright like cold fire, lifted slowly and locked onto Daniel's. He felt his chest tighten. He wanted to look away, but he couldn't. There was something in her gaze, something desperate and powerful. The merchant near the cage noticed Daniel's stare and smirked. "Ah, human," the alien said in a rough voice. "You look too long at the cursed one. She is not for you, best walk away. Many before you tried. None returned happy." Daniel frowned but said nothing. He took one more step toward the cage, his heart beat faster. He told himself it was only curiosity, just one look before moving on. But then the girl moved, her lips parted, and in a weak, broken voice she spoke, "Take me home." Daniel froze. He blinked hard. Unsure if he had heard right, her voice was soft but clear, and the words were in his language, not the alien tongue of the market, not broken signs or cries. She spoke human words. The merchant hissed and banged his staff on the bars. "Silence, beast!" He shouted at her. The girl lowered her head, but her silver eyes never left Daniel. He felt a chill run down his spine. He stepped back. His mind screamed at him to walk away, to leave this cursed place, but his feet refused. He had traveled the stars, seen things most men would never believe. Yet nothing had shaken him like this single whisper. "Take me home," she repeated, quieter this time, almost a plea. Daniel swallowed hard. His throat was dry. The laughter of other merchants around him grew louder. "Stupid human," one said, "do not even think of it. She is no joy, only death. You buy her. You buy a curse," but their warnings only made Daniel more uneasy. Why were they so afraid? Why keep her chained if she was truly useless? And how did she know his language? The merchant leaned closer to him. "You want her?" he said with a sly grin. "The price is high, higher than the stars. But listen to me, walk away. She is not for you. She is trouble wrapped in beauty. Her last owner vanished in one night. Only his bones returned." Daniel's stomach knotted. He knew this was wrong. He should walk away. He should forget those silver eyes. He should remember he only came here for ship parts, but the girl's voice, the way she had spoken like she knew him, it gripped him. He forced his legs to move and turned to leave. His mind told him it was the right choice. But just as he stepped back into the crowd, her voice came again, soft, broken, yet sharp enough to cut through the noise. "Human." "Please." Daniel's heart stopped. His hand clenched into a fist. He stood there, caught between reason and something else, something he could not explain. The market around him roared with life. Chains rattled, merchants shouted, and coins clinked, yet in his mind there was only silence. Only the girl's voice, only her silver eyes. He did not know why, but deep inside he felt this was not chance. It was not random that she spoke to him. Out of all the buyers, out of all the strangers, she had chosen him. And he was about to find out why. Daniel walked away only a few steps before stopping again. His chest felt heavy, as if invisible hands were pulling him back. The voices of the crowd around him faded. All he could hear was the echo of her words. "Take me home." He turned his head, just a little, and saw her still sitting in the shadows of the cage. Her body looked weak, her wrists raw from the chains, but her eyes burned with something powerful. It was not just a plea for help. It was like a command hidden inside a whisper. The merchant growled, "Don't look again, human. That one will ruin you. She is cursed, worse than cursed. Men who tried to own her died screaming. And some were never found at all." Daniel narrowed his eyes. He wasn't a fool. He knew how merchants worked. They always tried to raise fear to keep the price high, but this didn't feel like sales talk. This felt like real fear. Then why keep her alive? Daniel asked, his voice low. He surprised himself with the question. He hadn't planned to speak. The merchant flinched. His scaled skin twitched around his jaw. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Because she cannot die, not by our hands, believe me. Human, we tried many times. And yet here she is, breathing, waiting. And now she chooses you. Don't be proud. It is your doom." Daniel's blood chilled. He looked again at the girl. She was watching him. Her lips barely moving. He stepped closer, ignoring the warning. The crowd around the cage laughed. Look at the human. Already under her spell, fool. He doesn't know what she is, but Daniel heard something else. A faint whisper carried on the air. Not from the crowd, not from the merchant, from her. "Don't trust them," she whispered. Her voice so soft he almost thought he imagined it. "They fear me because I know the truth. If you leave me here, I will die in chains. If you take me, you will know why they hide me." Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to ask her questions, but the merchant's staff slammed against the bars again. "Quiet, beast!" the alien barked. The girl flinched, but her eyes never left Daniel. A short, fat alien beside him laughed loudly. "She fooled others too, human. They all thought they could save her. They all thought she was only a sad little thing in chains. But she is no woman, she is a monster. She drinks the lives of those who try to claim her." Daniel's mind spun. Monster or victim? He couldn't tell, but he knew one thing. Her words were not random. She had spoken his language. Words only a human could know. And the way she said them, it felt personal, as if she had been waiting just for him. He stepped closer to the bars, his hand brushed the cold iron. The merchant snarled, "Do not touch her. Do not go near her. Kind is poison. Do you want to lose your soul?" But Daniel's curiosity was stronger than fear. He lowered his voice, almost whispering, "Why me?" The girl's lips parted for the first time. A flicker of hope touched her face. Her silver eyes shone brighter, and she whispered back, "Because you can hear me, others cannot. You are different, human. That is why they chained me. That is why you must take me away." Daniel's pulse hammered in his chest. The crowd was still laughing, mocking, shouting words meant to scare him. But he no longer heard them. It was just her voice and his own breathing. The merchant noticed his hesitation and leaned closer. His breath smelled of rot. "You want her? Then pay the price. But when she destroys you, remember this moment. Remember my warning." The laughter from the crowd grew louder. Some aliens began to place bets. How long the human would last before vanishing. Daniel clenched his fists. His logical mind screamed at him to walk away. But the girl's whisper wrapped around his thoughts like a chain of its own. He remembered the emptiness in her eyes, the desperation in her voice, and the strange pull he felt as he turned to leave again. Her final whisper reached him, so soft he thought it brushed against his very soul. "Please, don't leave me here. Take me home. I will tell you everything." Daniel froze in place. His stomach tightened. He could walk away now and be free. Forget this cursed cage, but if he did, would he ever sleep again? Would those silver eyes haunt him forever? The merchant smirked, knowing the human was caught in the snare. "Decide quickly, traveler. The market moves fast. If you don't buy her, another will. Or maybe we will lock her deeper, where no one sees her again." Daniel's chest rose and fell heavily. Sweat ran down his back. He didn't understand what was happening. But one thing was certain. This was no ordinary girl. And the choice he made now would change everything. As he stepped forward again, the crowd went silent. All eyes turned to him, waiting for his answer. The air felt thick, as if the whole market was holding its breath. And Daniel knew deep inside that his life would never be the same. The crowd grew restless as Daniel stood frozen in front of the cage. His silence made the aliens whisper, laugh, and bet among themselves. Some shouted cruel jokes, others hissed warnings. But none dared step closer to the girl. They all watched him. Waiting for the human's decision, the merchant raised his staff and banged it against the ground. The sharp clang echoed through the market, silencing some of the noise. His scaled face stretched into a greedy grin. "So the human thinks he wants her," he said loudly. "Then let him pay the price." Daniel's eyes narrowed. He had bought things in alien markets before. He knew the tricks. First they scare you, then they tempt you, and finally, They break you with a price so impossible you either give up or get trapped. What's the price? Daniel asked firmly. The merchant's grin widened. For this one? More than gold, more than jewels, her price is a fortune, human, 10,000 star credits. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some laughed, others cursed. One alien shouted, "That's madness. She isn't worth 10 scraps." But the merchant slammed his staff again. 10,000! Or she rots in her cage until her chains rust away. Daniel's stomach twisted. He didn't even have half of that much. He could sell his ship and still fall short. The price was not just high, it was a wall meant to block him. He turned his eyes back to the girl. She was staring at him, her lips moving slightly. Again he heard her faint whisper, even through the noise of the market. "Don't leave. Not for money, not for numbers, I will be worth more than any treasure." Her voice shook him. His hands trembled. How could she sound so certain? How could she speak like she knew something he didn't? The merchant leaned close to him, lowering his voice so only Daniel could hear. "Listen, human, walk away. The price is too high, you cannot afford her. And even if you could, she will bring nothing but ruin. Think of your life, your ship, your freedom." Daniel clenched his jaw. "If she's worthless like you say, why guard her so closely? Why set her price at 10,000 credits? The merchant's grin faltered for the first time. His eyes shifted, his scales twitched. He didn't answer. Instead, a tall alien with 4 arms stepped forward from the crowd. "I'll offer 500, he said coldly. "She isn't worth more than that," the merchant spat. "Not for sale to you, you know the rules. Only strangers may claim her." Daniel frowned, the crowd went silent. His mind caught onto the strange words. Only strangers may claim her. What did that mean? Why would they forbid their own kind from buying her? The girl shifted, her chains clinking softly. Her eyes locked onto Daniel again, and her whisper slid into his ears like smoke. "It must be you, only you, don't ask why. Just trust." Daniel's heart pounded. Sweat dampened his shirt under his jacket. He was a pilot, a trader, not a hero. He had no reason to throw away his future for a girl in chains. And yet something inside him refused to walk away. The crowd sensed his struggle. Some mocked him. "The human's weak." "Already falling into her trap," others shouted. "Pay the price or leave, don't waste our time." Daniel reached for the small credit chip in his pocket. He had saved for months enough to repair his ship. Enough to keep traveling the stars. Without it he would be stranded, but when he looked at her, when he saw her silver eyes shining like moons through the shadows, the credits in his pocket felt meaningless. "I'll give you everything I have," Daniel said, his voice steady though his chest shook inside. He placed the chip on the merchant's counter. The merchant looked at it, then burst out laughing. "Everything? Ha! Not even close! This is scraps, crumbs compared to her price." The crowd laughed too, the sound rising like thunder. They mocked him, called him a beggar, called him a fool, but Daniel didn't flinch. He stepped closer, his face hard. "If she's truly worthless, then take what I have. Or admit this is no trade, this is fear. You don't want her freed, do you?" The merchant's laughter died, his eyes narrowed, the crowd went quiet. They all sensed something shift. The girl's chains rattled as she slowly lifted her head higher. Her voice, though soft, carried clearly this time. "He is not afraid. He is different," gasps spread through the crowd. The merchant bared his teeth and hissed, "Silence, beast." But his hands shook slightly as he slammed his staff against the bars. Daniel stood his ground. His voice calm but sharp. "Take my credits, or explain why you fear letting her go. Either way, I won't walk away." For a long moment no one spoke. The market hung in silence. The only sound was the faint hum of the lamps above and the slow rattle of her chains. Finally the merchant leaned back, his eyes burning with both greed and unease. "Fine, human," he growled. Take her and be damned. But remember this, no man walks away from her alive." The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some cursed. Others shouted bets about how long Daniel would last. But none stepped forward to stop him. Daniel's hands trembled as the merchant reached for the keys. His heart hammered against his ribs. He didn't know what he was stepping into. He didn't know if he had just bought freedom for a victim, or doom for himself. But he knew one thing. There was no turning back now. The crowd pressed closer as the merchant pulled out a ring of old keys. The metal clinked like bones rattling in a grave. Every eye in the market was on the cage now. The laughter had faded into uneasy whispers. It was rare, too rare for anyone to actually claim her. Daniel's palms were sweating. His heart pounded against his ribs as he watched the merchant step toward the cage. even the guards at the corners. Large, armored creatures with tusks and spiked armor shifted backward. They didn't move to help. They didn't even reach for the cage. Instead, they looked away as if touching her was a curse. That was the first sign. The merchant shoved the key into the lock. His hands trembled, though he tried to hide it. With a loud click, the iron door creaked open. The smell of rust and damp air rushed out. Daniel swallowed hard. The girl didn't move. She sat in the shadows, her wrists bound, her ankles chained to the floor. Her silver eyes glowed faintly, but her body was weak, fragile, thin, like she had been drained of life. "Unchain her," Daniel said firmly. The merchant laughed nervously. "Not with my hands. Human. You wanted her, you take her, I have unlocked the door." "That is enough," the crowd murmured in agreement. Some jeered. "Yes, human, touch your new prize. Touch the cursed one if you dare." Daniel felt the weight of dozens of stares on his back. He knew this was a test. They wanted to see if he would falter. He clenched his jaw and stepped forward into the cage. The air felt colder inside. The shadows seemed heavier. He knelt by her side. His hands reached for the chains. The iron was rough, biting into her skin. He could see scars, old and deep, where the metal had cut her flesh over and over. As his fingers brushed the chains, she lifted her head slowly. Her eyes locked onto his for the first time. Her lips curved into something close to a smile. Not joy, not relief, but something sharper, like recognition. "You chose," she whispered, so soft only he could hear. "Now you cannot turn back." Daniel's hand shook, but he forced himself to work the locks open. One by one, the chains fell, clattering against the iron floor. With each chain that broke, the crowd grew more restless. The whispers rose, sharp with fear. "Fool," someone muttered. "He doesn't know what he's doing. He'll be dead by morning," another hissed. When the final chain fell from her ankle, the girl moved for the first time. Slowly, carefully, she stood, her body wavered, weak from captivity, but her presence filled the cage. The space around her seemed to change. Daniel felt it. The weight in the air, a strange energy pressing against his skin, like invisible hands testing him. The guards outside stepped back again, their tusks clicking nervously. One even dropped his weapon. The crowd recoiled as if a storm had just passed through. The girl looked down at her wrists, raw and bleeding from years of chains. Then she looked at Daniel. Her silver eyes shimmered like liquid metal. "You are not afraid," she said, louder this time. Her voice rang clear in the silence. Daniel swallowed. "Should I be?" She tilted her head as if studying him. "Yes," she whispered. "You should." A ripple of fear spread through the crowd. Some began to leave, pushing each other in their rush to escape. The merchant himself stepped backward, muttering curses under his breath. But Daniel didn't move. He stayed where he was, watching her, waiting. The girl stepped out of the cage. Her bare feet touched the dusty ground of the market for the first time in years. The crowd gasped as if the earth itself might crack beneath her. Every guard, every merchant, every onlooker kept their distance. No one dared to block her path. Not a single hand reached out to stop her. Daniel followed, his steps heavy. His mind screamed questions. What is she? Why do they fear her? What have I done? But none of the words left his lips. The girl stopped just outside the cage and turned to him. Her silver eyes glowed brighter, as if light lived inside them. "You freed me," she said. "Now the chains are yours." His stomach nodded. "What do you mean?" But she did not answer. Instead, she walked into the crowd, and the sea of aliens parted like shadows fleeing from fire. Not one dared to touch her. Not one dared to speak. Daniel hurried after her, his voice tight. "Where are you going?" She glanced back, her expression unreadable. "Home," she whispered again. The word sent another chill down his spine, because he suddenly realized he didn't know what home meant for her, and he wasn't sure he wanted to find out. Behind him, the merchant called out with a bitter laugh, "Enjoy your curse, human. You will see soon enough she was never meant to be free." But Daniel didn't turn back. He followed her out of the market, past the guards who shrank away, past the merchants who lowered their eyes, and as they stepped into the night air, Daniel felt it. Something had changed. The girl was no longer just a prisoner. She was something else, something vast and dangerous, and now she was walking at his side. The chains were broken. Yes, but Daniel knew deep in his bones, the real weight of those chains had just shifted onto him. The market was far behind them now. The noise of merchants, the smell of rust, the mocking laughter, all swallowed by the silence of night. Daniel led the way down a narrow alley that opened into the barren outskirts of the alien city. The streets were empty here, only broken walls and dim lamps flickering against the cold wind. The girl walked beside him, her steps slow but steady. The chains were gone, yet Daniel could almost feel them, invisible but heavy. Every time he glanced at her silver eyes, he remembered her words. "Now the chains are yours." He stopped near an abandoned storage shed. His ship was docked not far beyond, hidden in the shadows of the landing bay. But he knew he couldn't bring her there yet. He needed answers first. "Sit," he said quietly. Pointing to a broken crate, the girl obeyed without hesitation, folding herself gracefully onto the wood as if even trash bent to her presence. Daniel crouched across from her, keeping a small distance. His hand rested near the weapon on his belt. Not out of trust, not out of fear, just instinct. For a long moment they sat in silence. The night pressed in around them, and the faint hum of alien ships drifted through the sky above. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "Who are you?" The girl tilted her head. Her hair fell like black silk across her face. "I was called many names," she whispered. "Daughter, weapon, curse, gift. But none of them are truly mine. You may call me Selene." "Selene," Daniel repeated. The name rolled strangely off his tongue. It felt too human for an alien slave, too soft for something the market feared like death. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Why did you speak to me? Why not anyone else?" Her silver eyes glimmered, reflecting the faint lamplight. "Because only you can hear me as I am. The others heard nothing but a beast's noise. They saw nothing but a cursed shell. But you saw me." Daniel's throat tightened. He shook his head. "No, I heard you clearly. You spoke my language," she smiled faintly. But there was no warmth in it, only mystery. "I didn't speak your tongue, Daniel. I spoke my truth, and somehow—" "You understood?" His blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Her gaze grew distant. "There is a thread, hidden in the heart of the stars, a link between worlds. Humans were not meant to find it yet. But some of you are born with the echo of it inside. You are one of them." Daniel stared at her. His mind reeling, he wanted to laugh, to dismiss it as madness. But something about her voice, her eyes, the strange pull he had felt since the market, none of it could be ignored. She leaned forward suddenly, her voice sharper. "That is why they chained me. That is why they feared me. Because I know the truth about what humans are." His chest tightened. "What truth?" Selene's eyes narrowed. "Your kind is not weak, not lost among the stars like they think. You are the fire they fear will burn their empires down. That is why they caged me, to keep me silent." "To keep you blind?" Daniel's hands trembled. He forced them still. "Why me? Why not wait for another human?" Her voice softened again, almost gentle. "Because you came and because you listened, do you think that was chance?" "No, Daniel, it was never chance." The silence between them stretched. Daniel's heartbeat echoed in his ears. He wanted to deny it, to push her words away. But deep inside something stirred, a strange recognition. Like her voice was touching a memory he didn't know he had. Before he could respond, a sharp sound cut through the night. Boots on stone, heavy and fast. Daniel's hand flew to his weapon. His eyes scanned the shadows. Selene didn't flinch, she only whispered. "They are coming." Daniel's breath caught. "Who?" She looked at him, her silver eyes glowing brighter. "Hunters." Dark figures emerged from the alleyway. Armored silhouettes with glowing visors and heavy weapons. Their movements were silent, efficient, deadly. Daniel counted at least 5, maybe more. One of them raised a blaster and spoke in a cold metallic voice. "Human, step aside. The creature belongs to us." Daniel pulled his weapon free, his jaw tight. "She doesn't belong to anyone." The hunter laughed. The sound sharp and cruel. "Then you have chosen her fate as your own." Selene placed her hand on Daniel's arm. Her touch was cold, but her voice was steady. "Do not fear them. Fear me if you must, but not them." Before Daniel could ask what she meant, the night cracked open with the sound of energy weapons charging. The hunters advanced, and Daniel realized too late. This night was only the beginning. The night split open with the crackle of charging weapons. Red lights from the hunters' visors cut through the dark alley like glowing knives. Their boots hit the ground in unison, steady and merciless. Daniel's grip tightened on his pistol, sweat slick on his palms. He had been in fights before, but this was different. This time he wasn't just fighting for his own life. He was standing between them and her. Selene remained seated on the crate, her silver eyes steady, calm, too calm. It was as if the sight of heavily armed killers did not concern her at all. That calmness unsettled Daniel more than the hunters themselves. "Step aside, human," the lead hunter barked, his metallic voice sharp. "You cannot protect what you do not understand." Daniel raised his pistol. "Maybe I don't understand her," he said, voice low but steady. "But I won't hand her back to chains." The hunter's visor tilted slightly. Then he laughed, the sound hollow and cold. "Foolish," he said. "You think you've freed her." "You've only unsealed what should never walk free," Celine finally spoke, her voice soft yet cutting through the tension. "You call yourselves hunters, but you are only wardens of fear." The hunters stiffened, several of them shifting uncomfortably. Their weapons wavered for a split second before steadying again. Daniel glanced at Celine, confused. What are they talking about? Her gaze didn't leave the hunters. "They don't hunt me for profit, Daniel. They guard the galaxy from me." Daniel's stomach tightened. His mind raced. Was she confessing to being dangerous or mocking them? He couldn't tell. The lead hunter snarled, "Enough!" and fired. A bolt of red energy screamed across the alley. Daniel reacted without thinking. Diving to the side, he fired his pistol back, the sharp crack echoing against stone. The hunters spread out, their movements precise. Like predators closing in, Daniel crouched behind the broken crate, heart hammering. He fired again, hitting one of the hunters in the shoulder. The alien stumbled but didn't fall, armored plating glowing where the shot struck. "Daniel!" Celine's voice reached him, calm, almost eerie against the chaos. "Do not waste yourself on them. They are shadows." "Nothing more. Shadows with blasters," Daniel shouted, ducking as another bolt scorched the wall above his head. The hunters advanced closer, their weapons raised. They fired in short bursts, forcing Daniel to retreat step by step. His pistol hummed, warning low on energy. He cursed under his breath. He wouldn't last long like this. Then Celine stood. The hunters froze for a second, as if the simple act of her rising to her feet drained the air from the alley. Her silver eyes glowed brighter, spilling light into the shadows. Daniel felt the hairs on his arms rise as though the air itself had changed. One of the hunters shouted, "Contain her now!" They fired in unison, a storm of red bolts streaking toward her. Daniel shouted, "Celine!" But before the bolt struck, the air rippled, a wave, silent, invisible yet heavy, rolled outward from her body. The bolts slowed midair, their light bending. Before they fizzled out into nothing, Daniel's jaw dropped. What did you just—" Celine raised her hand slightly, and the hunters staggered, their visors flickered. Their weapons shook in their hands. Several dropped to their knees as if invisible chains pulled them down. Her voice was soft, but it carried like thunder. "You fear me because you know what I am, but you cannot kill what was never born as you were." The lead hunter fell to one knee, his weapon sparking. He growled through his helmet. "She'll destroy you, human, don't you see? She's not salvation, she's doom." Daniel looked between them, his chest tight. He wanted to move, to fight, to speak, but he was frozen, trapped between the terror of the hunter's warning and the awe of Celine's power. The girl turned her eyes to him, her expression unreadable. "Now you see why they chained me," she whispered. "Why they would rather keep me buried in silence than let me breathe." Daniel swallowed hard. His weapon hung useless in his hand. He stared at her, his voice rough. "What are you?" Her silver eyes glowed brighter still, reflecting stars he couldn't see. "Something your kind will one day become," she said softly, "and that is why they fear you too." The last hunter collapsed with a cry, his armor sparking before going dark. The alley was silent except for Daniel's pounding heartbeat. Celine lowered her hand, the glow fading from her eyes. The hunters lay scattered on the ground. Unconscious or broken, Daniel could not tell. He stepped toward her slowly, his voice sharp with a mix of fear and awe. "If you can do that, why did you need me?" Her gaze locked onto his, a faint sadness hidden beneath the silver. "Because power is not freedom. Daniel, chains are not always metal, and without you, I would still be nothing but a weapon." Daniel's chest tightened. He didn't understand everything, but he understood this much: whatever she was, whatever danger she carried, he had already chosen her, and now there was no escape. The alley was silent now. Only the broken hunters scattered across the ground, their armor smoked, their weapons useless. Daniel stood frozen, his pistol heavy in his hand, though there was nothing left to shoot. His heart thumped like a drum inside his chest. His eyes stayed on Celine, the girl, the prisoner, the impossible being he had just freed. She looked calm, almost too calm, as if nothing dangerous had happened. Her silver eyes dimmed back to a softer glow, but Daniel couldn't forget what he had seen. Bullets stopped midair. Armored killers crushed without a touch. He took a slow step toward her, his voice low. "Celine, what are you really?" She turned her gaze to him, quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, "Not what you fear and not what you hope. I am what waits between the stars, Daniel. I am what your kind is meant to find." Daniel shook his head. "That's not an answer." "I don't—" "You will," she said softly, cutting him off. "But only if you take me home." The word home burned in his ears. He had heard it since the first moment she spoke to him in the cage. The word that hooked him, chained him to her fate. He clenched his fists. "You keep saying that, home. Where is it, Earth? A world you came from?" Celine stood tall, the night breeze pushing strands of her black hair across her face. "No," she said, "not Earth, not any planet you know. Home is not a place, it is a doorway." Daniel frowned, his chest tightening. "Doorway?" She stepped closer, her bare feet silent on the stone. Her silver eyes shimmered as she whispered, "They chained me because I remember where the door is. They feared what would come if it opened again, and they feared who could open it." Daniel's mouth went dry. "Me?" Celine nodded once, slow and certain. "Only you." His pulse spiked. "Why me? I'm no soldier, no prophet. I'm just a trader with a broken ship and bad luck." Her expression softened, for the first time showing something like kindness. "Because you listened when others turned away. Because you heard me when others heard only silence, you carry the echo, Daniel. The echo that calls to the door." He stepped back, shaking his head. "No, this is insane. You want me to believe I'm some chosen key to a doorway between the stars?" "Yes," she said simply, her voice steady. "That is why they called me Curse. That is why they kept me alive, chained but not destroyed. They could not kill what was tied to the door. They could only guard me, hide me, pray that no human like you would come." Daniel felt the ground tilt beneath him. His whole life he had run from trouble, avoided wars, kept to himself. Yet now he was being told he was part of something that could shake the galaxy. He looked at her sharply. "What's behind this door?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Not all answers are gifts, Daniel. Some truths burn. Some truths and worlds." He stepped closer, his voice tight. "Then why should I follow you?" She leaned in, her whisper brushing against his ear like cold wind. "Because if you don't, the hunters will return with more. And if they capture me again, the door will still open. But not with you holding it." With them, Daniel froze, his stomach turned. He thought of the hunters, the fear in the merchant's eyes, the way the entire market had parted to let her walk free. They weren't afraid of her alone. They were afraid of what she could lead to. Celine stepped back, lifting her face to the night sky. The stars shimmered above, endless and silent. "I asked you to take me home," she said softly. "But home is not safety, Daniel. Home is truth. And truth will cost you everything." Daniel looked at his hand gripping the pistol. The weapon felt useless now, like a child's toy against the weight of her words. He lowered it slowly, breathing hard. His mind screamed at him to run, to leave her, to forget this cursed path, but his heart had already chosen. He took a step toward her, voice firm despite the fear in his chest. "Then show me, Celine. Show me where this door is." Her silver eyes brightened again, a glow alive with both promise and danger. For the first time she reached out her hand to him, her fingers cold but steady. "Then walk with me, Daniel," she whispered. "Walk until the stars open, walk until home." The night around them felt heavier, as if the universe itself was listening. The broken hunters lay still, the city slept. But Daniel knew the silence would not last. This was only the beginning, and as he took her hand, he realized the truth. He hadn't freed her, she had chosen him, and now, whatever waited at that doorway between the stars, he was bound to face it.